Welcome to the 2023-2024 NBA Deep Dive series where we're going from every single team from worst to first, from lowest rated to highest rated. And now we have the Indiana Pacers, who had a tale of two seasons last year. They started incredible. They were, 10-3 to start the year. Tyrese Haliburton was healthy and playing at not just an all-star level, but a superstar level. And they were a top, 4 seed maybe in the Eastern Conference. And then, as always, the Indiana Pacers dealt with injuries to their starters. But when they were healthy, they were 26-22 when Tyrese Haliburton and Miles Turner played together. But then they fell off, dealt with injuries. Tyrese got hurt. Miles kind of sat, and I'm not going to say they tanked shamelessly like some of the other teams have at the end of the year, but they just did not play well. And then they hit the draft and they ended up with like the number 7 overall pick. It was just not great. This team has struggled to get top 10 talents on their team. Imagine this team with a Victor Wembanyama or a Paulo Banchero on the team, and you'll think they're a completely different team with a completely different future. But right now, they're still kind of stuck in the, are they rebuilding? Are they retooling? But they do know that they need to build around Tyrese Haliburton, focus on defense, and start putting players into roles instead of blanket development because they have a future now. They have a vision, which is why they're coming in at 18th, even though they finished 35-47 last year with the 11th record in the Eastern Conference, just missing out on that play-in tournament because they have playoff aspirations. Last year, they were 26th, and the turnaround that Tyrese Haliburton brought to this team, the culture, the offensive scoring, is ridiculous, which is why they're coming in with that 79.44 ranking. But let's go ahead and look at some of their offseason moves, starting with the fact that they effectively got rid of Chris Duarte for nothing. And I mean, it was just a tough season for Chris Duarte. He got drafted. I didn't agree with the decision at all. As a win-now player, he was like a 4-year guy at Oregon, polished product, and then he just dealt with injuries all last season. He had a great rookie year, and then the team said, you know what, screw this, we're going to blow up the team and rebuild. And Chris Duarte was kind of the odd man looking out, didn't really have a fulfilled role, had a strong rookie year, came in this season, and then got hurt. And then as soon as he came back healthy, I think he dropped like 30 points, he got hurt again. So it was effectively a lost year for Chris Duarte. And because of just the struggles that he provided and the lack of really versatility that he offered to the team, the Indiana Pacers said, you know what, we're going to get rid of you, go to the Sacramento Kings, and we're going to free up a roster spot because we have a lot of moves to make, like bringing in a Bruce Brown. O'Shea Brissett is gone to the Celtics, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's a O'Shea Brissett, Daniel Tice flop that goes on somewhere at the midseason mark. But all in all, he was a great player for the team. He was the ultimate Indiana Pacer, gave him so much effort, and was just really a positive force for them. But at some point, his regression started to hit, his shooting continued to fall, and he was a negative player for the team, no matter how much effort he gave on the defensive end. George Hill is gone. Him and James Johnson probably should be like assistant coaches for this team, but it's always fun to have a couple of veterans on your squad that you can root for. But they did bring in Bruce Brown, the NBA champion from the Denver Nuggets, and he's on kind of a weird contract, a 2-year with the team option on the final year, but he's earning $20-something million, which is a little bit much. He's earning basically as much as Tyrese Haliburton will earn when that contract extension kicks in, but it's really only a 1-year deal. I guess they're hoping that he brings in some defense and some culture to this team so they start winning basketball games. Obi Toppin, they effectively stole for nothing 2 second-round picks from the Knicks. Not really sure what the Knicks are doing there. We'll talk about that. Ben Shepherd and Jarris Walker, their first-round picks. But let's talk about this team, starting with the man who's going to turn this team around, Tyrese Haliburton. And it's just a night and day difference of this team when Haliburton is playing. 28-28 while he was there, 7-19 without. And I know you can kind of give that the LeBron James effect. They built the entire team around Tyrese Haliburton. So, of course, when Tyrese Haliburton is out, he's not going to play well, but I think it's time to call him a superstar. His impact on the team when he plays, they're a top 5 seed. When he's out, they're a bottom 3 team. I just hope that his body can hold up over the course of a full season because it seems like he misses about 30 games every single year, picks up injuries all over his body, a wrist here, an ankle there, a hip here, a finger there, and he just has a knack for getting hurt. There's no major, ACL tears, Tommy John surgeries, but it's starting to get to be a concern for me. His defense is unimpressive and a weakness if the Pacers ever hit the playoffs. His lateral speed is limited. His lack of strength is evident in his slight build, and it really doesn't let him get up on bigger, stronger players, and he really struggled in the FIBA tournament with physicality. They kind of ran whoever offense on him and Austin Reeves at times, but offensively, he is impressive. He is a 3-level scorer, had the second highest assists average if he would have qualified playing enough games last year in the NBA. He was the first Pacer in franchise history to average a 28-10 season on a list of only 15 others like Oscar Robertson and LeBron James. He was the first player in NBA history to average 20 and 10 and 40% from the three-point line. He had 19.8 potential assists per game, which was #1 in the NBA. He loves to push the pace and really turn this team into a fast, high-voltage transition team on the offensive end, which is a complete opposite from what they used to be. They were slow and methodical and played in the half-court set. And Tyrese Haliburton said, screw that. I'm going to push the pace every possession. I'm going to push the pace off of misses. I'm going to push the pace off of makes. And that leads to mismatches where guys like Miles Turner and Benedict Mathurin can exploit. He was remarkable last year. He was clutch in the fourth quarter most of the time, showed flashes at the #1, and the team is building their entire franchise around him. The only concern for him is A, stay healthy, and B, get that defense up a little bit. Other than that, there is no concerns about Tyrese Haliburton being a superstar, being an all-star. You look at the stats, he's going to be up to top 5 in the assists. You look at the three-point shooting, he's been 40% for his career. I mean, there's just nothing that Tyrese Haliburton on the offensive end can't do. But they do have some defensive liabilities, which is why they brought in a Bruce Brown. And I was a little unsure of who's going to be the starting shooting guard for the team. Is it going to be Bruce Brown? Is it going to be Buddy Hield? Is it going to be Ben Mathurin? Is it going to be Andrew Nembhard? For now, I'm putting in the $20 million guy, Bruce Brown, to start, and he's a really solid piece for them. A good role player, jack of all trades, master of none, guard, forward, center hybrid. He's just a little bit of everything on the league. He played point center for the Nets and would set all the screens and then do the little push shot floater that he has and then guard the other team's best player. He played 2 for the Nuggets. He won a championship. He got a near max deal. He's a strong defender, both on ball, point of attack, and then a help defender. He'll occasionally do a little too much. He'll play out of his strengths and make some ugly mistakes. He suffers occasionally from the he thinks he's better than he is itis that a lot of young role players will suffer from. But at the same time, he's been steadily improving his game with the minutes that he's got. He was in Detroit as like a second-round pick, came to Brooklyn and balled out. And then Denver, they just said, you know what? We don't need you to be this non-specific, we don't really know what you are role. Just do whatever we ask you to. We want you to be more of a guard. And he really balled out. He had a career year, career high in points, 11.5 points. Career high in assists, 3.4. His three-point shooting was down a little bit. He shot 40% 2 years ago, but last year he shot 3 times more of the threes and shot them still at a pretty good clip, 35.8%. He was just remarkable for the team and a key member of that Nuggets championship squad, from the defense he played to his transition buckets, and that's part of why he's going to be an Indiana Pacers, because he plays in the transition really well. Him and Obi Toppin, I think, were like top 15 players in transition efficiency, and they're going to be constant lob threats, three-point threats, running threats for Tyrese Haliburton. And I have him getting the start over guys like Buddy Hield and Andrew Nembhard because of his defensive versatility. So we'll see how long Bruce Brown is an Indiana Pacer. I don't imagine them paying him $20 million next season. Once Tyrese Haliburton's contract kicks in, they're going to have to start giving out money a little more frugally than they've been doing. But Bruce Brown is going to be a great veteran piece for this team, which is funny to say because he is only going into his 5th season. Moving on to somebody who's not a veteran piece, Mr. Ben Mathurin, who had just an incredible rookie season. Now, I know the stats fell off. He did hit the rookie wall a little bit, but he was an all-rookie first-team player for a reason. And if I could use one word to describe Ben Mathurin, it's fearless. He's not the greatest shooter. He's not the best athlete. He's not the best defender, passer, facilitator, or whatever, but he will take it to the rack with sheer relentless effort. He led the Pacers in free throw attempts by almost double. Now, I personally have no idea why Rick Carlisle refused to play him in the starting lineup and he often took him out for closing games, other than the fact that he's not a great defender. But man, it was just ridiculous that he was the best scorer for this team outside of Tyrese Haliburton. I know his shooting splits weren't 50, 40, 90, but he deserved better. There was no shortage of confidence. There was no shortage of aggression, and he was a high-flying scoring machine as a rookie, which is usually impressive, and you want to foster that talent. Now, is he going to be a superstar, a star, a two-way guy, a six-man Jordan Clarkson kind of guy? We're going to have to see, but he needs to improve his efficiency in the offseason. Hopefully his understanding of his weaknesses, and he's willing to improve. By all reports, he's a hard worker. He's got to improve that decision-making. He averaged 1.9 turnovers to his 1.5 assists. That's just unacceptable. He's got to improve his facilitating to a little bit of an extent. I know Tyrese Haliburton is on the team, but Ben Mathurin needs to know when to drive and kick, when to drive and shoot, when to drive and lay it up, when to drive and just go to the rack and draw those free throws. And there was a lot of times where he just gets tunnel vision and he just drives straight in the defender's body and says, I don't care what's going to happen. I'm going to get to the free throw line, which is a plus and a minus for him. And more importantly, he needs to take strides on defense because he was a complete liability on the defensive end. Defensive rating 121, defensive box plus minus of -2.5. And it's not that he had any lack of tangible talents. It's more on the mental side. He wasn't a great team defender. He wasn't a great on-ball defender. He just got blown by, making rookie mistakes. And I'd like to see him clean that game up, improve that game, and become a two-way guy instead of just being a free throw machine. I want to see him add more versatility to his game and become the superstar that he has the talent to be. Lastly, I want him to work on a signature shot, his get your own points kind of move, either out of the post or the three-pointer or driving hard, getting a nice handle and elevating over the defense. He needs a signature, I'm going to get a bucket shot, because that was the one thing that he was missing, and he kind of forced it because what he loves to do is catch the ball and either pump fake and hold on for a second, shoot a three completely out of rhythm while just staring the defender down, or he'll jab right, drive with his left, and then finish right again, which as the scouting reports get more complex on him and more of an understanding of his strengths and weaknesses, they're going to take that away. So he needs to continue to get better. But Ben Mathurin is a bright spot on this team and one of the few untouchables. Moving on to the power forward position, and I wasn't sure who's going to be here. Are they going to bring back Aaron Nesmith to be the power forward? Are they going to have Obi Toppin, the new guy, be the power forward? Are they going to have Jarris Walker, the number 7 overall pick, be the power forward? So for now, I have Jalen Smith here. I wouldn't be surprised if they go in a different direction. That's totally fine by me because Jalen Smith had a really bad year last year. Just all across the board, his three-point shooting fell off, and it's more like he had a nice, strong stretch of three-point shooting for a couple of games, which ended up being a 37% three-point shooting last year, and then went back to his normal 20% three-point shooting, and he really just got moved back to the center position, had to fight for Isaiah Jackson for backup minutes behind Miles Turner. It's not that he fell off, it's more that he reverted back to who he is, which is about 8 or 9 points per game, 20% from the three-point line, decent rebounding, decent defender, but just not a lot of potential there, which is funny because he's only going to go into his year 23 season. But man, he was bad last year. His defense was bad. The experiment at the power forward position failed. He can't stretch the floor anymore. And he closed the year strong after Miles Turner was shut down. He averaged 14.2 points per game in the final 5 games. But this is going to be a big year for Jalen Smith. It's kind of one of those, is he going to be a potential starter on a team? Can he play backup center? Can he be a starting power forward? I think we already answered that question. But what else can he offer to the team? He's a good rebounder. He can't shoot. He doesn't really have any moves. He's a minus player on the offensive end. He's a minus player on the defensive end. So other than rebounding, what is he really going to offer to the team? And especially when there's guys with a lot more physical upside like Isaiah Jackson waiting in the wings, or a Daniel Tice who's a consummate veteran and better than Jalen Smith is at pretty much everything, you got to say, is Jalen Smith really long for this roster? And like I said, this is going to be a big year for Jalen Smith. Now, Miles Turner had a big year last year. Oh my gosh, he had a monstrous season. And the skill has always been evident with Miles. He's just been kind of stuck with Domantas Sabonis filling the paint, clogging up the lane, not letting him really be the natural center that he wanted to be, because Miles Turner's peak is a 5-out center. And once Sabonis left, he finally got pretty much unleashed and unlocked by Tyrese Haliburton. Boy, did he produce. He had a career-high 93 threes. Even in a down year last year in his blocks, he had 2.4 blocks per game, had a career high in rebounds now that he wasn't fighting Sabonis. And even though Miles Turner has never been a great rebounder, 7.5 rebounds as a career high will work. He was strong. He was a legit 7-footer for the team. He was a top 10 center in the NBA. He just needs to stay healthy because he set the franchise record in true shooting. Completely surpassed his scoring high, which was 14.5 his second year. He had 18. So career highs in rebounds, career highs in points, career highs in true shooting. He just across the board was unlocked by Tyrese Haliburton and the new offense that they have now, running a 5-out modern offense, and Miles Turner looks good. Now, his defensive metrics have always been a little bit funny because he's a great block machine, but he's never been a great defender, if that makes sense. There's that little bit of a disparity that most fans don't really get to pay attention to when you look at just the counting numbers. For a lot of the times, his blocks have always been really high, around 2.4, 2.5. Let's look at his stats every year. 1.4, 2.1, 1.8, 2.7, 2.1, 3.4, 2.8, 2.3 last year, because the Pacers are just so bad at defense. Tyrese Haliburton's a bad defender. Buddy Hield has been known to be a bad defender. Ben Mathurin turned out to be a bad defender. And then the power forward position was really their only good defense from Aaron Nesmith, who's like 6'4". So their defense has always been a problem. And Miles Turner has been kind of tasked defensively with that Rudy Gobert clean up that mess responsibility, which he does a good job at. But as far as his on-ball and perimeter defense, there is a little bit of a liability there. But he's coming back on a really good team-friendly deal, had a breakout monstrous year with Tyrese Haliburton, and it looks like they're starting to figure things out. The 1-2 with Tyrese and Miles is going to be lethal and unstoppable. I'm looking forward to seeing this team healthy next year, ball out, because that is the only point of concern for this team. Can they stay healthy for the duration of a season and make a run in the playoffs? Moving on to their bench, and there's a lot of questions about who's going to be starting where for this team, but TJ McConnell is the consummate professional, and he had another really good year last year as well, had his best statistical year, and even shot the ball well, and even shot three-pointers. What? Now, I know it's a low volume, 26 of 59 is 44% from the three-point line, but TJ McConnell made three-pointers. He is a good facilitator. He's really good at that under the basket CP3 dribble, poking around the defense, trying to find an open guy, using the rim to protect his layups, putting up little floaters that he's wide open for. But the fact that he even shot threes last year was remarkable. He's a bad defender because he's undersized, and yet he's a good defender because he's just so pesky. He's a great on-ball defender, reads passing lanes incredibly well, has always been up there in steals per 100. You look at his stats, 2.9 in his rookie year, 3.1, 2.6. Last year, 2.5 steals per 100 possessions because he's just a pest, man. Is he unlocked on the three-point end? I just don't really think that's going to happen on a high volume, but the fact that he shot any at all was good for him. Now, I would like to see TJ McConnell really moved for some draft capital. This is a team that needs to consolidate some of their talent. I think Andrew Nembhard is the perfect backup point guard, who was my point guard 3 coming out of last year's draft class, and I want to see them move in that direction. But at the end of the day, if TJ McConnell is your backup point guard and you're looking to make a playoff run, I mean, you can't do much better than TJ as far as the backup role is concerned, especially because Tyrese Haliburton is going to start 35, 38 minutes a night, especially in the playoffs. So you only need about 10 minutes of backup facilitating minutes. I said minutes twice there, didn't I? I'm dumb. Anyway, moving on to Andrew Nembhard, who just had an incredible rookie season. I know it's hard to tell how good these rookies are. You look at their VORP, it's always in the minuses. But man, first of all, he played out of position most of the time as a floor spacing defensive shooting guard. When he was the third best point guard coming out of his class, he hit that game winner against the Lakers that everybody will remember. He's not a scorer naturally, but he's more of a guy who can dribble, slice through the defense, pick his shots when they leave him open or go under screens, and then pass to the open man. He had a lot of experience in Gonzaga playing with guys like Drew Timme and Chet Holmgren. He's still improving his natural facilitation game. It's not like he's on the level of Tyrese Haliburton, but he's a really damn good facilitator. 4.5 assists to 1.7 turnovers as a rookie. Just imagine that's going to continue to get better. He moves his feet really well. He's a tick undersized at the 1 and the 2, about 6'4", kind of a slight build, 200 pounds, but he was their best perimeter defender outside of Aaron Nesmith. He was their best guard defender and point of attack defender, and he was a pest. And that defense is why he started 63 games last year as a second-round pick rookie. He was just a remarkable player that exceeded all expectations, and I'm really not sure why he fell so far in the draft to pick, I want to say 31. Now, he's not a tremendous athlete, but he's a cerebral athlete. He accomplishes a lot of his game through his mental rather than elite physical traits. He does get a bit of tunnel vision when he's on the offensive end. I'm hoping that he gets coached up into a more Tyus Jones sort of point guard role rather than them asking to be a 3-and-D player. But his role is just very undefined right now, and this Pacers squad has a lot of moving pieces. We're going to have to see where players go. He might be their best on-ball defender and might be their best backup point guard, and him being signed to a really cheap 3 years left, $2 million a year contract is what makes TJ McConnell expendable. We love TJ. He's been incredible for the Pacers, was really fun for the 76ers, but he's a cheaper, younger, better defensive-minded backup point guard, and I think that makes TJ McConnell expendable in the future. Moving on to Mr. Buddy Hield, who's also in a contract year, and it's going to be interesting to see what Buddy Hield offers to this team, because we know exactly who Buddy is. He's a three-point shooter. He was second in the threes last year, hit 288, ninth in three-point percentage at 42.5%. He's a bucket, and for some reason, his game just clicks with Tyrese Haliburton more than anyone else in the world. When he and Tyrese are on the court, they just have this Zen, Draymond Green, Steph Curry connection where they know exactly where each other's going to be, get those wide open threes, and their game elevates to another level. When Tyrese went down, it's not that Buddy was bad. He just wasn't quite as good. He's an elite shooter. One of those guys, though, that when he sets his mind on something that he's going to shoot the ball, he's going to shoot the ball regardless of the defensive coverage, regardless of the time left on the clock, regardless of whatever's going to happen. Buddy's going to get his shot up. And he is a defensive liability, which is why he's probably more destined to play backup role as a 6th or 7th man off the bench rather than being a starter and, you know, a permanent pacer for life, because those defensive liabilities are concerned when you already have Tyrese Haliburton who can't play defense, when you already have Ben Mathurin who hasn't been able to play defense, when you have question marks at the power forward and shooting guard position. Then Miles Turner isn't a great defender, but he's more of a clean up that mess kind of guy. So defense is going to be a priority for this team. And Buddy Hield, as great of a shooter as he is, as good of a leader as he is, as much fun as he's having out there in Indiana, Is he in the long-term plans for this team? I just don't know yet. They want to say, there's interviews that are coming out saying that we need to figure out a role where Buddy Hield is going to be happy, and they're going to be happy having Buddy Hield on the team, and that's going to be coming off the bench, being a spark plug and playing alongside Tyrese Haliburton. Now, Obi Toppin is going to be the really interesting piece for this team because he's theoretically the power forward that they need. He's got the tangible size to be their 3-and-D power forward. He shot better from the three-point line finally last year. There were some sparks and videos coming out, Obi Toppin is the key to this team. Well, I mean, he's not, but he did boost that three-point percentage from 30 to 34. Imagine if you get that closer to league average around 37. That'll work on the offensive end. Defensively, he's always been decent. We just haven't really had him get a full season and a chance to start. He's always been playing behind Julius Randle and never really had a defined role. If he can be their primary big wing defender for the team and start over guys like Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson, that'll be a good run. Defensive rating has been a career 112. I mean, you'll take that. Defensive box plus minus is at 0.0. But the fact that he got given away from the New York Knicks for 2 second-round picks is criminal. And I know last year wasn't a breakout year for him statistically across the board, but Obi really improved his game last year. His basketball IQ was better on how to cut, how to find the open space. His three-point shot got better, although streaky. He was in the 80th percentile in transition, which is going to be dynamic for this team alongside Tyrese Haliburton. Obviously an alley-oop threat going in transition. He was a productive NBA player last year. He just needs his chance and needs his role. And the New York Knicks just weren't going to give that to him because Julius Randle is an all-NBA caliber player. So I think this is going to be a breakout year for Obi. He might be a most improved player candidate with the offensive versatility that he brings to the team with his defensive abilities because he has the tangibles. Obi Toppin has always been a freaky athlete. He just needs to put it all together mentally. He already has it physically. And I think under Rick Carlisle on this Pacers squad, he could certainly do that. Moving on to another freaky athlete is Isaiah Jackson, who's going into his 3rd year, and we just need to see some clarity of who he's going to be. I don't think he's a backup power forward or a starting power forward. I don't know why they continue to try to make him a power forward. I know he has the athletic versatility to be a power forward, especially defensively, but his three-point shot has always been horrible. 14.3% last year is just unacceptable. Now, he still needs to put on some muscle to be a backup center. I don't think that shooting is ever going to come along, so I'm more projecting him to be center 2, center 3 for this Pacers squad. He still makes a lot of rookie mistakes. He gets so jump happy, falling for pump fakes, setting moving screens, coming in late on rotations, making the wrong passing reads on offense. He did shoot 43% on layups, which is just tremendously awful. And there's a quote out there that I read from, I think, Caitlin Cooper. Been a big fan of her coverage on this Pacers squad, but it basically said he makes the simple things hard. He does too much with the easy stuff, and that's part of what his problem is because he's a tremendous athlete. He moves his feet really well at the 6'10", and honestly, he plays small forwards and power forwards on defense on the perimeter better than he plays against other bigs. Given his 6'10", 6'11" frame and the fact that he can't shoot, there might be more of a Jared Vanderbilt role for him out there somewhere, and let guys like Daniel Tice or Jarris Walker play the center position for them, and then he can just be an incredible weak side defender and switch 1 through 5. So this isn't a contract year for Isaiah Jackson, but this is certainly going to be a big one. Like I said, clarity to see what he's going to be in the long-term future because he is going into his year 3 season. That's kind of when we see the jump and the elevation from these young guys, and he is a first-round pick. They did trade up for him so that he could be their big athletic backup center. All I can say about that is we will see. Moving on to the rest of the bench, and this team is just stacked top to bottom. They go 15 deep easily, starting with Jordan Nwora, who had a really good year last year, came over from the Bucks and just really balled out. I liked his game, and I was kind of surprised that the Bucks really gave up on him for Jay Crowder after trying to develop him for a couple years, but I don't think his defensive intensity matched the culture. And it's not like he was an awful defender, he just didn't bring the intensity night in and night out that a Giannis or a Drew Holiday does. But he is a really solid shooter, as you can see by the 40.8%, but he's certainly a microwave scorer, evidenced by that 25-point quarter that he had on the Pacers. He's got really good size in him, about 6'8". He looked a little bit thicker in Indiana. I don't know if that means he was out of shape or that he put on muscle. He said conditioning is one of the things that he wants to work on the offseason. So, I mean, it's been good for him with this new muscle slash fat slash whatever driving through contact. I'm a little worried about his stiff hips because that makes him a minus defender, evidenced by his defensive box plus minus negative 2.2, which is not what this Pacers squad need, is more bad defenders. Hence why Aaron Nesmith was the starter for the majority of the season. And he doesn't have a great basketball IQ beyond taking his own shot. He gets a little tunnel vision, but he was playing much better defensively and was passing much better and was just playing really well, which is why they brought him back this season. Possibly he read the tea leaves that he might be out of the league soon and started to give much more effort than usual. Maybe this will be another breakout player candidate for the Indiana Pacers squad. Maybe he'll revert more to the Milwaukee Bucks normal that he's been displaying, which was a 13th man off the bench, possibly out of the league, or maybe he'll be their starting power forward. It's all going to be an interesting year for this team. Another interesting player, Aaron Nesmith, who finally broke through after being traded away from the Celtics, who finally got a chance to show who he is, and he was a great two-way wing player for them. Shot the three decently well, 36.6%. Defended decently well, defensive box plus minus of negative 0.7, which is good for this team because he was tasked with guarding the other team's best player night in and night out. He was the primary defender for the Pacers 1 through 4, and when Andrew Nembhard was starting 2 through 4. Now, he is streaky as hell knocking down his jumpers. His handle isn't great. When he's not either shooting or driving hard, it can be ugly. He's in the 18th percentile of his position, finishing at the rim. He's got no left hand. He's in the 4th percentile at foul rate for wings. He was a foul machine last year. Now, can he be the 5th guy on a championship squad? Probably not, but he definitely finally was able to prove that he's an NBA caliber guy. He was fiery. He was a positive force for the locker room. He was their best wing defender, had some mean highlight dunks that everybody can remember, and just really had a good season finally after being like a 10-minute per game guy for the Celtics, not really getting an opportunity. Looking at the stats, let's see. Played 46 games the first year, 52 games last year, never more than 15 minutes a night. And then last year got 25 minutes and was just really a versatile guy that they were looking for because they were lacking somebody who could both play defense and shoot the ball. You could either get defense from O'Shea Brissett and then his three-point shot was in the 20s, or you could shoot the ball like Buddy Hield and then have no defense. So Aaron Nesmith was the two-way guy that they were looking for a long time. Hopefully he can continue to develop and get just a little bit better at all of those things. Another player that's going to come in and give him some spacing is Ben Shepherd, the three-point shooter, the knockdown money king. He's just really a one-note kind of guy. 40% three-point shooter in college. Game reminds you a lot of Quentin Grimes, where he's going to catch the three and he's going to shoot the three, and most of the time he's going to make the three. Now, he's not a great athlete, but he does try hard on defense, and I'd say Quentin Grimes because I really see a lot of that effort that he gives. He'll hop around on defense. He'll get shook up by crossovers easily. He'll fight hard through screens, but he's just not a great athlete. That 40% three-point shooting is invaluable, and if he turns into a positive defender, he's definitely going to be a 3-and-D guy for this team, but he's got a long way to go on that end. Hopefully he can improve, get a little bit stronger, get a little bit more agile if that's possible in today's NBA, and make himself a positive player for this team. Ironically, the Pacers are one of the few teams where shooting is not needed. They have enough 3-no-D players on their team. They need 3-and-D players on their team. They need defense. Defense was a priority, which is why they took Jarris Walker, number 7? I keep saying number 7. He might have gone number 8. You know what got me screwed up is that the Pacers drafted at number 7 with Bilal Coulibaly, and then they traded that to the Wizards, while the Wizards drafted at number 8, Jarris Walker, and then they traded him to the Pacers. You know, I'm saying I'm completely right on this. Anyway, I didn't love the pick of him over Taylor Hendricks purely because that three-point shot was not consistent. It was a super low volume in Houston. He started the year really bad and then picked it up a little bit, but then back in the summer league, he went like 1 of 12 from the three-point line. I don't think his shot is going to come along at all, but he is an incredible defender. He's got freaky good instincts. His reach and timing is impeccable. He was picking guards' pockets in the summer league, guys who are like 6 feet, 6'1", and he was just timing the steals, slides his feet well, and then he can handle the rock somewhat a little bit too. He's got playmaking. He played some point guard in high school. He played some center. He plays the wing. He plays a little bit of everything. He's just a jack of all trades, master of none kind of draft pick, except he's a master on the defensive end. Now, he's a little bit short at 6'7", but he was marketed as a defensive playmaker, if that makes a lot of sense. So he's going to give you strong defense on the perimeter, guard 1 through 5, pick everybody's pockets, jump the passing lanes, play great defense, grab rebounds, and then pass the ball on offense. So I don't know about you, but that reminds me a little bit of Draymond Green. So that's going to be something to look out for moving forward. Again, the shooting, though, is horrendous, and that needs to improve. His shot form isn't terrible, so I think there's a good chance that that gets a little bit closer to a league average, 36-37%. But in the summer league, it was horrendously bad. A lot of his shots were like 2 feet short or 3 feet to the right. His accuracy needs improvement, and hopefully that'll come along in time. He is a young dude coming out as a one-year guy from college. Daniel Theis, not a young guy. He is an old-ass man. And honestly, if it wasn't for that incredible performance he had in the FIBA tournament with Germany, I would say that this guy is out of the league. He was injured all year last year, but when he plays, he's the same old Daniel Theis. He's good depth. He sets really good screens. He shoots the midi. He runs offenses pretty well in sets. He tries hard, he runs around, and he's probably going to get traded to the Celtics at the trade deadline, and they'll trade O'Shea Brissett back in like a second round pick because Daniel Tice is a good depth center. He can come in and give you positive minutes, but last year he was just hurt. And that's all it was. He played 7 games, and then whenever he was healthy, they were really focusing on getting Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith going, see what they have at that backup center position. So is Daniel Tice going to be a center for this team for the long-term future? I don't know. He's probably right now their best center, being realistic, but at the same time, he has no potential whatsoever. This is Daniel Tice. This is who he is. This is who he's always going to be, is a good, decent backup. But let's move on to the rest of the team with Kendall Brown, Oscar Tshiebwe, and Isaiah Wong. Now, Kendall Brown is an interesting prospect. He came out with Jeremy Sohan out of that Baylor squad, who was freaky athletic but could not shoot. Kendall's very Greg Brownish, maybe even O'Shea Brissett-ish. He's an incredible athlete who needs to continue to learn the game, aka shoot the 3-ball well. But he's got a great frame on him. He's about 6'9", strong build, good wingspan. But when he's dribbling the ball around, he looks like a constant double dribble threat. His decision making is poor. Basically, if he's not flying through the air 40-inch vertical, dunking the ball in an alley-oop, it's not pretty. But he's got that tangible size that everybody's looking for. He has the chance to be a really strong on-ball point of attack defender and a great weak side help blocker. So we'll just have to see what Kendall Brown develops into. Oscar Tshiebwe, I mean, he's not going to develop much. He's a 27-year-old rookie, which is incredible. He's a grown-ass man, older than Chris Duarte when he was coming out of the league. But I love his game. He was a Thanasis Antetokounmpo clone to me. He'll come in, he'll give you relentless energy, and he won't shoot the ball well at all, won't pass. But he's a rebounding machine. He's one of those guys that can read the ball off the rim well, like a Dennis Rodman type. Undersized, but just outworks everybody. He did have some of a jumper in college from the mid-range, but he's got no wingspan. He's undersized, and he's freakishly strong. So, I mean, if you want someone to come in and give you effort and be a 6'6" rebounding machine, like, I guess that's fine, but rebounding is only so important in today's NBA. I love Oscar Tshiebwe's effort and energy. Like I said, if he's going to get a roster spot and be in that 1 minute at the end of the quarters, wreaking havoc on NBA offenses kind of game. Other than that, though, probably not too much there. Isaiah Wong, a really skinny, undersized kid out of Miami. I don't see an NBA player in his game. His shot wasn't great. He was a foul machine. He's only about 5'11", 180 pounds, defensive liability. He was shot hesitant in the summer league, and when he would take shots, it was ugly. His facilitation wasn't great. He's a score first guard at 5'11". I don't know if there's really an NBA player in there, but we'll see. Maybe he'll ball out in the summer league and score 40 points and be the next, I don't know, Isaiah Thomas. Moving on to their coach and culture ranking, where they're going to come in at tier 2. And I'm a really big believer in Rick Carlisle, less so actually the Pacers front office. I've had some issues in the past with them settling for mediocrity in the TJ Warren, Karis LeVert days, in the Victor Oladipo days, keeping Domantas Sabonis and Miles Turner together forever when they could have traded them away a long time ago. But I like the direction that this team is going. They finally said we're going to embrace the rebuild. Now, they haven't gone full rebuild. Like I said, they didn't get that number 1 or number 2 overall pick that would have really turned this team into a future bona fide championship team. They are embracing the rebuild. They've gone younger. They're picking up young, versatile guys like Jarris Walker, like Ben Mathurin. There's a lot of young talent on this team, and Rick Carlisle has done a heck of a job because he came over from Dallas, and while he was coaching up Luka Doncic, they had their heads clashing, and they were like, oh, Luka likes playing really slow and methodical, and they had like the 20th pace in the NBA. And then Tyrese Haliburton, the new point guard of the future, was like, I want to run the ball every single time. I'm going to go in transition, make or miss, and we're going to push the pace. And then they turned into like the 4th rated transition team last year. And that was because Rick Carlisle didn't try to force what he knows and does best onto this team. He said, I'm going to play to my players' best strengths, and that is running the pace and playing elite level transition basketball. Now, they do need to work on the defensive end, and it's been, 3 years in a row now that they said, we need to get better at defense. We need to get better at defense. Well, it's time to show up and show us how good you are on the defensive end, which is why probably Bruce Brown and Andrew Nembhard are going to start on day 1, because they have so many liabilities on the defensive end. But we'll have to see what Rick Carlisle does with that. Big fan of him as a head coach, big fan of him as a leader, and I think he's having a fun time rebuilding this young squad and just seeing what they can do with all this talent on the team. Moving on to their salary cap screen, and you can see, other than Bruce Brown's ridiculous contract, which will probably decline next season for the team option, they don't have a lot of problems. Miles Turner re-signed in a really team-friendly deal, basically $20 million a year for a top 10 center that can stretch the floor and play defense like he does. That's more than team-friendly. Buddy Hield going into a contract year. You'd like to see them bring him back. And as a Jordan Clarkson piece, maybe $14 million a year for a couple years just because he clicks so well with Tyrese Haliburton and he's part of the Pacer identity. You got Daniel Tice, he's probably gone after this year. TJ McConnell, I like to see him moved and just open the floodgates for Andrew Nembhard to take over officially as the backup point guard. Obi Toppin going into a contract year. Ben Mathurin's a rookie. Jarris Walker's a rookie. Tyrese Haliburton is getting that super max extension, and he's going to start costing you money. Tyrese Haliburton's contract is basically the timeline for this Pacers squad. Once he starts earning, you're going to have to build the squad around him, and I think that's what they're starting to do. Aaron Nesmith, rookie deal. Jalen Smith honestly might get waived if he continues to have another bad season. He's earning a little bit too much money. He's getting a player option, $5.5 million next year. And if he's just worse than Isaiah Jackson is, there's no reason to keep him around. Ben Shepherd, rookie. Jordan Nwora, contract year. Isaiah Jackson, rookie. Andrew Nembhard, basically rookie deal. And then a whole bunch of guys in dead cap. Normally, I don't put the dead cap on screen, but they actually have 2 years left of dead cap from guys like Nick Stauskas, Juwan Morgan, Malik Fitz. Just figured I'd throw that out there, let you guys know that they're almost $2 million in dead cap, which is why they're going to have to get a little bit creative. Indiana, for whatever reason, is a small market basketball team, and they're going to struggle to bring in free agents. So they have to do some uncharacteristic things like signing Bruce Brown for $20 million or getting Jalen Smith a player option for $5.5 million. Anyway, looking at the season projections, I'm taking the over because when they were healthy, they were a top team in the Eastern Conference. So the fact that they're only getting 35.5 projected wins next year from Vegas is just unacceptable. So the season outlook for me is that Tyrese Haliburton stays healthy. They're a top 4 seed and they ball the hell out. Ben Mathurin learns how to play defense. Tyrese Haliburton pushes the pace. Miles Turner continues his incredible offensive campaign, and they figure out the other 2 positions. Because as you can see by this squad, they have so much depth. They just need clarity. And that's what this season is going to be for the Indiana Pacers, a clarity season. But that is going to do it for this Indiana Pacers squad. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.